Hello, I'm Alun R, and this afternoon I'm facilitating the third of 4 sessions of Achtung, Cthulhu Dark, the Angel of Krupna. This is based on the Cthulhu Dark rules by Graham Walmsley, but it's scaffolded by the setting materials from Achtung, Cthulhu by Modiphius. The other change is that in order to allow some of that kind of wartime action to take part within the Cthulhu Dark rules, I've lifted some of the rules from Cartel Quickstart by Mark Diaz Truman into this rule set, so that we can have more action and perhaps offer the characters more ways to control the stress and horror of what they encounter. This is a game set just before the start of the Second World War, and as a swift recap, the British have parachuted 2 soldiers into Czechoslovakia, which was occupied by the Third Reich about 3 months ago, and they're on a mission to investigate reports of atrocities in occupied Czechoslovakia, and to that end have gained the help of the resistance in Prague, who've helped them both establish what's gone on and also to help get them as far as Karlstein, where this seems to be localized. And an American diplomat has become involved in this, though, as we perhaps will discover, not necessarily with the complete consent of his government. Because this is a game set in a fictionalized Third Reich where the occult, supernatural, and the Cthulhu mythos are real, this can get quite dark. We have set some lines and veils, which I'll just remind myself and the players of. We have lines around the depiction of atrocities, Nazi atrocities, though we may see some of the effects of those atrocities or consequences of them. We also have a line around sexual violence and violence against children or animals, and around any persecution of trans people by the Nazi regime. So those are lines we will not cross. We will not see that graphically portrayed in the fiction. And then we have veils around sex and torture, though again these may happen. They will be behind the curtain. We will not see them on screen, though they may be referred to and characters may become involved in them. So those are the lines. The other safety tool, lines and veils, the other safety tool we're playing with is the X card. If any of the players feel that the material is straying into a place where they are discomforted in a bad way, then what I will ask them to do is just make the X sign on the screen. I would say put it in the chat, but to be honest, I tend to notice the chat less than something in front of me on the screen. So if they make the X card, I won't ask why. I won't quiz them on why they've played the X card. I'll simply ask them where they want me to go back to in the fiction, so I can go forward in a way that hopefully will avoid the material that caused them any concerns. And let me be clear that if we encounter some material and you don't X-card it, that doesn't mean that you can't X-card it retrospectively or were it to appear again, because sometimes it takes a little while for stuff to percolate through. So feel free to retrospectively X-card it. Those are the safety tools that we'll be using. They are the ones espoused by the Guantlet online community, and this is being run as part of the calendar of Hangouts games organized by the Guantlet. If you don't know about the Guantlet, then you should certainly type Guantlet RPG into your search engine of choice, and you will find loads of fascinating stuff, a great community of people, and the opportunity to play in games like this, as well as lots of other things, were you to then join the Patreon, which I would recommend. So with, I think, the pen picture of where we're at and the circumstances of the game and safety tools covered, I think I'm ready to say to my players, would you introduce yourselves, please? And can we do it in character keeper order from left to right. So I start, Walter, by asking you to introduce yourself briefly and then tell us a little bit about Ben Hart and maybe something that mattered to him in the last game. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm Walter, he, him. I have been playing with the Gauntlet for over a year now and playing out of San Francisco, California. I am playing Ben, who, let's see, I'm a little slow on getting the character keeper open. There we go. Now I can see him. Ben is the tough NCO. He is he's relatively young but experienced. He's been in the military for a while. Before this, seen some action. He's reliable, he's tough, and he's laconic. He follows orders, and that's one of the things that's really come up in the last session. I'll leave the details for other people to recap, perhaps. But we engaged in an action to save some Czech orphans from the Nazis, but that wasn't our mission. And Ben felt that we were putting the real mission, which had much larger implications for many more people, Ben felt, at risk. And so I think Ben felt like the odd man out in the last session, in that he feels like he has like the larger mission in his mind more than the other people here do.
Thank you for that. Then moving along, Paul, can you tell us, just introduce yourself and tell us about Adrian Carton PbtA.
Hello, I'm Paul R, he, him. I am playing Adrian Carton PbtA, who is a Belgium national by birth, but is a UK soldier. He's well in his 50s, and he's seen a lot of multiple actions, including World War One. He finds himself now as the hard-eyed commando, leading the sort of British element along with Ben. And I think what sort of came out of last week's session was really trying to juggle tactical and strategic goals, while he understands that Ben is fully concentrated on the overall strategic aim. Adrian took more of a tactical decision at some stage, which hopefully will play out in the long run of the strategic campaign. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. On to Sabine. Sabine, could you introduce yourself and tell us about Adam Gasko?
Hi, I'm Sabine. I use any pronouns. I will be playing Adam Gasko. Adam is a Czech national. He used to be a small-time criminal. He has some experience with mechanics and things like that. He can operate a radio, and he speaks many languages, at least, maybe not fluently, but at least a bit. He was chosen by the Czech resistance, which he kind of became part of because he had a cousin and stuff like that. He was sent out to rendezvous with the Americans, the Swedish bird watchers. That's our cover story anyway. And yeah, he was not very thrilled when they were like, what, nuns getting shot, children getting done some stuff to by the Nazis. Hey, that's not our orders to do something. He wasn't very cool with that, and he was very happy when Adrian decided to go for the Nazis. And he shot a Nazi. He's a civilian. He has never shot anybody before, but he shot 2 Nazis, and he was pretty hyped about that.
Thank you very much. And finally, Eduardo, just introduce yourself and tell us briefly about Joe.
Sure. So my name is Eduardo. I go by he, him, and I'm playing Joseph Joe Wachowski. He also goes by he, him. Joe is a U.S. diplomat, and essentially he's the careful courier. he's skilled in negotiating, maintaining lines of communication, and that, in a sense, is his backstory in a nutshell. I mean, I think he got sucked into this by being sent to sort of observe what's going on. I mean, at this stage, 1939, U.S. isn't in the war, and there's an understanding of the problems or the troubles, and just trying to come to grips with, well, what's sort of what's really happening in Europe, and that, in a sense, like I said, is his backstory here. He's watching. He's kind of on the sidelines, just sort of observing and reporting back to the diplomatic office in the U.S.
Thank you for that. So just in terms of picking up where we left off, as the players have described, there was a firefight last time on the way to Karlstein, where they left a burning truck and hijacked another one, having freed some orphans being kidnapped. They've hidden that truck along with a pair of, albeit bloodstained but still SS uniforms, in a ruined farmhouse outside Karlstein. And then they went into Karlstein in the late afternoon to have a look round. Adam found a working men's club, because there is suggestion is that the local resistance are affiliated to the Communist Party, and dropped some heavy hints about his interest in helping the fight, hoping, I think, that the resistance will come and find him, because while they've had a briefing from the resistance in Prague, the actual details of what is going on here and the need to find Father Andre, the so-called codename Angel, at the center of this, has so far eluded them. The details of that are yet to be discovered. Meanwhile, Adrian and Ben took a wander around the town simply to get the lie of the land and to check out the various Nazi checkpoints to be found in the town and adjoining it. And so we finished last time with, I think, Adam coming out of the cafe club where he'd been, to find a motorcycle and sidecar roaring through the town up towards the castle. And I think that the characters have quite rightly inferred that this reflects the fact that the burning truck and the ambush that they carried out last time has been discovered. So that is the point at which we finished. But before we pick up events in Karlstein, I'd just like to play out a scene, a bit of a montage of a scene, I guess, with Joe. Because the last time we saw Joe, he was departing at the end of session 1 to report back what he discovered. So, Joe, I'm assuming some kind of coded telegram communication with the embassy back in because I think your boss is actually in Poland, isn't he, rather than in Prague, in Czechoslovakia?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So let's just have that exchange of telegrams, shall we?
Sure. Yeah. So the last scene that Joe was in was the jazz bar in scene 1, where things got bad very quickly. But we got a few more details of the mission. We learned about Castle Karlstein and Father Andre. And so, just to pick up from there, it's just sort of this perfect moment for, on the way back to sort of the safe house, perhaps, everyone is I believe we split up and we were trying to avoid, the secret police. Perhaps there's a moment where you see, Joe just sort of, look back or maybe do a side glance and, slip down a side alley. Would there, perhaps be, I don't know, another safe house? Or, how would you imagine this sort of fitting within the story where, or would you rather have him meet up with the group and then say something to the effect of, I'm going to go off and take care of this diplomatic.
I think the way that we dealt with your absence last time was simply to say that you went back to the British embassy,
Gotcha.
or the American embassy in Prague, the legation, take your pick.
Gotcha.
Leaving Ben and Adrian at the safe house for a slightly nervous night on their own.
Gotcha.
So I place you at one of the embassies or legation, whatever American diplomatic arrangements there are in Prague. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, it's this montage of him, coming in and sort of dictating a message, and you see the clock, and the clock moves, and then there's a telegram that returns. There's another scene where he's sort of sleeping on maybe some wooden chairs that he assembled into a bed, and the clock moves again, and another telegram comes in, and he dictates another telegram back, and sort of in again this sort of like 1930s 40s style of watching, we see sort of the last telegram, which basically directs Joe, something, you're on your own, stop, thank you for information, stop, additional information would be valuable, stop, progress at your own caution, stop. And he sort of crumples it up, and he asks for vehicle without diplomatic plates. And the last scene is just it's maybe 5 a.m. in the morning or something. It's just sunrise, and just this sort of black, just sort of regular sort of vehicle, nothing really special about it, just sort of peels out of the the sort of carport, and is driving into the woods to rejoin the group. Something like that. Does that make sense?
That does indeed.
Okay.
And we'll worry about that car's arrival shortly. Hopeful arrival. Meanwhile, then, at Karlstein, we've seen the motorbike dispatch rider come back and head to the castle with, we assume, the news that you knew was inevitable sooner or later. What's the plan? Because I'm going to assume that you regroup at the square that off which that bar was located, and you can see the map of Karlstein is in the mission tab. So I think that square is in the adjoining village of Vorda Trebane. So you come back together. Shortly, it will be dusk, and the dusk till dawn curfew will come into play. What are you going to do, the three of you?
First, I wonder where the professor has come to. We should explain him away.
Sorry, I'd forgotten. Yeah, we did have an additional player last time, playing Professor Zakpal, an academic from the Czech University of Prague, and I think I'm going to put the professor at your disposal as a consultant in matters of the strange. And as far as I'm concerned, I think he will accompany Adam until such time as I have a place to keep him that's safe. Yeah? Does that seem fair?
Yeah, seems reasonable. Yeah, well, I've made some inquiries, but I have to wait for the results. So, yeah.
So the question becomes,
that's what I'm telling the other. Sorry, Alan. That's what I'm telling the other guys. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do now. Do we go and shoot somebody?
Yeah. So then the question is, does it? I mean, it sounds like at this point we just want to lay low for the evening. Maybe we want to sneak out in the night, but we'll need a safe base at least. So where would that be? Is maybe the immediate question. There's the old farmhouse, but that's far from where we are interested in putting our attention.
It's about a mile off the eastern side of the map you have.
So it's only 1 mile. That's not okay. So maybe that's all right. So that's probably as good a go-to as we have for anything then, especially since I think we probably left a cache of weapons there as well as the uniforms in the truck.
So should I screen wipe us to that farmhouse? or do you want to do anything else in the middle of the town? I'll take silence as approval. So,
wait, I've got an idea. Maybe I've left, just go back a little, and maybe I've left a radio frequency for the resistance to contact me. And then I can go back to the farmhouse and they can call us. We don't have to sit there and wonder, where's the resistance? They don't, well, they won't find us because we're hidden. That's not very nice.
And just to warn you, I've accelerated the mission clock. I've now marked 2 boxes in the alarm column. So you can expect the occupation troops to be suspicious now that ambush has been discovered. That suspicion may not be directed at you, but they will be concerned. And another check on the mission clock will see alarms leading to more significant clampdowns, which again I think you were predicting might be the outcome of the ambush, though you have tried to make sure that ambush is put down to the local resistance. Fingers crossed. Okay, so there's a frequency they could contact you on, and then are we back to the farmhouse? Okay, so it's nighttime. You're in the farmhouse. Do you want a scene during the night, or can I move us swiftly on to the next scene at daylight?
I actually think that let's see. I have an idea for a scene, and I think I'd like to engage in the stress move. So, all right. My idea is that I believe, I'm not looking at it right now, but I believe that there are a variety of ways we can reduce stress. And let's see. One of them is if you indulge in meaningless sex. Is that right?
That is indeed true.
So I would like to propose a scene in which this might be stretching things a bit, but well, actually, maybe we could just start with a scene leading up to it at the farmhouse and see where that goes. So I'll just to like lay bare my whole plan. I think that while in town, Ben perhaps exchanged glances with another young local man, and noticed that man seemed to be like hanging out at a particular, maybe I don't know, a bar or someplace, right? He thinks he knows where he could find that man. And so he would like to go back into the name of this town, which I can't say right now, Vordertrabane, and seek him out. So I think maybe we would need a little scene to set that up, though, where Ben is like going to propose that he goes and takes a walk around the perimeter of the farmhouse, and he might be gone for a while, keeping an eye on things.
I think that's fine. And unless someone objects to you undertaking a walking of the perimeter, I think we can move straight to that scene.
Okay.
Now we know that we're veiling sex, so I think that perhaps you will find in your walk around the village with Adrian, I think you might well have spotted a couple of young men loitering near a bar, and I think there might have been an exchange of glances that you are familiar with. We know that homosexuality is illegal across almost all the West, I think, at this point. So you're used to these tricky encounters, negotiating them. And so I'm prepared to go straight to the consequences. But first of all, you do indeed get to roll your stress die. And if you score less than your current stress, you can reduce it by 1.
Okay. So, all right. So I'll just start by rolling the stress die before we do anything else. All right. So let's see here. Roll for party. All right. Oh, I'll roll the green stress die. Okay. Boom. I got a 6. So no, it was truly meaningless. It didn't even reduce my stress.
And the terrible thing is that despite the fact that it didn't work, you still have to roll for the if you indulge in meaningless sex roll. So you still have to roll 1d6.
Okay.
You can add your stress die if you're willing to take the risk, or add it later to re-roll it. But yeah, on 1 to 3, there are consequences, 4 plus, and then 6. So now just roll the ordinary white dice for how efficacious any consequences. Go ahead.
Okay. And so you're saying that I could mark an additional stress and actually lose stress if I, or gain stress, but to roll like a second die.
Well, if you roll your white dice and you score 6, it was really worth it. Reduce stress by an extra 1. So even though you failed to reduce stress, if you roll a 6 for the consequences, you will still reduce stress by 1. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
It's just if it's not 6, things may not go as positively.
Okay. Okay, then. So here goes. I roll the basic
The white-
die.
the white
I got a 6. The white die.
There you go. So it was really worth it. Reduce stress by 1 extra. So you can reduce your stress by 1.
Okay.
But you also notice in that rule there is 4 plus. Things go very badly. Agree with the GM whether to apply the 4 plus results from verbally abuse, bully or shame someone, or beat someone up. Whatever happened in that alleyway with that young man, something has gone badly wrong.
Okay. Even on a 6, something always goes wrong. All right, awesome. So what went badly wrong?
So
right.
You can either look at the 4 plus outcomes for verbally abuse, bully or shame someone, or the 4 plus results for beat someone up, the NPC entry for that.
Okay. All right. So beat someone up. I see that first. Others verbally abused. All right. So beat someone up. It says you get away but leave something behind that incriminates you personally, or get away but leave something behind that puts the mission at risk. And then for verbally abuse, the 4 plus is there are consequences for your relationship with you, or the mission is put at risk. All right. So I think it boils down to either I leave behind something that personally incriminates me, or I put the mission at risk. So I think what my character would hate most would be putting the mission at risk, and would do everything in their power to not have the mission be put at risk. So let's go ahead and choose that.
Okay, my suggestion is that what puts the mission at risk is you leave him your name. You introduce yourself as Ben. Clearly not a local name. You're clearly not local. And so I think that what puts the mission at risk is that he now knows that there are some non-British and some non-Czech people in the vicinity. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so your stress did go down by 1.
I mean, presumably he would have known I'm a non-local anyway, because I'm not going to have any kind of accent. But yeah, I think like, yeah, he like maybe, or yeah, maybe yeah. Okay, I'll go with that.
Perhaps he saw your revolver.
Okay. That's good. I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Clearly there is something strange. Now, what he does with that information, who knows? But it does put the mission at risk, and it will allow me to put another mark in the mission clock. So you do need to know now that suspicion locally has risen to the potential of alarm. An alarm means the Nazis are certain there are enemy agents in the area and will be more suspicious than normal. Expect the GM to take an opportunity to make a PC avoid detection. So just be aware of that. Though you do look much more relaxed when you get back to the farmhouse, Ben. Anyone else want a scene during the late evening or overnight before we move to the following day? Okay, so Ben returns as he said he would a couple of hours later, reports, absolutely, sir, that everything is fine on the perimeter. And what are you going to do with the following morning then? Are you simply going to sit tight and wait for the resistance to come to you, or do you have some other plan?
Do we have any idea about the priest? I thought we were talking about contacting some priests last time.
Yeah, Father Andre appears to be the center of this in terms of the intelligence that you had back in Prague. He's the priest who apparently rescued some children and is now being sheltered by the resistance. And he was the priest at Krupna, which is a small hamlet west of Karlstein. So there's no reason why you can't, go into the town or go to Krupna and put your ear to the ground around whatever happened to Father Andre then. Just saying.
Yeah, to get to Krupna, we'd have to go past a couple of German checkpoints. That's the problem there.
Unless you take a cross-country route while bird watching.
I mean, as far as I know, other than making contact with the resistance, that's our only lead, right? And then we suspect something very bad is happening at Castle Karlstein, but presumably that's the hornet's nest, and maybe we don't want to go there yet.
Certainly, that appears to be the center of the occupation's activities. I think simply, the very fact that motorcycle and sidecar whizzed up across the bridge and up the hill to the castle is enough to tell you that's where HQ is.
Yeah, I think Ben would feel like going to Krupna is a good idea and would advocate for that.
I think we should go cross country, right? Because going through the city, that's just asking for them to discover us.
I think looking at the map that you've been given, the obvious route is to come in from where you are at the east side of that map. Now, you won't be able to do this by car. You will have to walk. But there is a footbridge via that island in the River Barunka that would get you across before the checkpoint outside Hintertrebbane station.
Mm-hmm.
And from there are a number of tracks marked that would take you around the south of the map to the village of Bleichen, and from there to Krupna. Do we see that in the map?
Yeah, there's also a footbridge halfway between Vordertrebbane and Karlstein, which crosses the river.
Yeah, no, that's true. Take your pick. Either way, you can see there are some tracks coming in from the eastern side of the map that would take you into Vordertrebbane, not on the main road, which probably seems a good idea at the moment. So you tell me.
Yeah, and just generally, I think maybe since we have the day to ourselves, perhaps going on foot makes more sense than attracting attention by car. Or what's our intuition about what would attract less attention? To be enclosed in a car or to be on foot like we're bird watching?
I think that given that your cover is as bird watchers, in part they gave you that cover so that you could at least have an excuse to wander about the countryside. The trouble with the car is the only way you'll get the car across the river is by passing the checkpoint on the road bridge.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Okay. So all I need to know is whether you come in, go through Vordertrebbane to that footbridge, or whether you cut across the river sooner before Hintertrebbane railway station and make your way around the south end of the map. That gives me some idea of how likely you are to encounter a foot patrol.
We should also decide on a load.
That's true. I think the load currently shows where you were at in terms of the ambush. So if you want to change that load, now would be a good time to do it. While the three of you are thinking about that, I'd like to cut to Joe, who has driven through the night to get to Karlstein, and is driving in from the same direction you came, frankly. He may even have noticed that a burning or a burnt out truck has been pushed off the road about 10 miles east of here. So Joe, you're driving towards Karlstein. You come in, as the map shows you, at that kind of north of the river, bottom right there. And you'll reach a junction that says Gross Moorshine this way, Karlstein that way. Which way do you go? Or do you park? There's a square here.
You know, I mean, you know, Joe is new to this, and you know, this is one of those moments when you're watching the movie and you're just sort of yelling at it, no. So, you know, I kind of imagined, you know, Joe's driving like an old Skoda. You know, it's just this like 30 horsepower thing that's just sort of put, you know. You know, he comes across the fork in the road. He pauses briefly, and the headlights are shining on that sign, and you know, he just takes to the right to Karlstein, and proceeds. I mean, he's driving a little bit more carefully now. I mean, he did see that wreck by the side of the road, and he knows well enough to yeah, that, you know, that this is new. You know what I mean? That this doesn't look like this was something, you know, that took place months ago, for example, or weeks ago even. So yeah.
Fine. I'm going to place it dawn, because I don't really want to have him arrive while the curfew is still on. That makes sense. That would make it a little dangerous for him. But yeah, so I imagine him driving into Karlstein, which is really the small suburb of Vorder Trebein, it must be said. And there's a signpost saying Castle Karlstein, but at that crossroads, or at that junction, there is a roadblock. Occupied by German soldiers in field grey. What does Joe do?
You know, he would probably, you know, try to veer off a street as you know, as inconspicuous as possible. I mean, he's still, you know, once again, really just kind of making it up as he goes. I mean, he's
fine. So yeah, he turns off into a side street when he notices the lights of a truck or a motorcycle, perhaps, up ahead and pulls out of the way. But I think I do need him to avoid detection here, whether he's been noticed.
Okay.
So if you go to the basic moves, you'll find avoid detection when your cover falters or you are at risk of exposure. But first of all, I need to know, is he traveling under his own papers? Because I don't think he has any other papers.
So I had, and correct me if I'm misreading this, but I thought as part of his kit he had a set of false papers.
That's fine. I just want to make sure he was traveling.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, as I think about this out loud, you know, he would have had time to kind of think about this while he was driving. And, you know, the cover story that I guess he's developing is that, I guess he's, oh gosh. You know, I'm going to say just sort of within, you know, just kind of within the narrative that, you know, with a name like Wachowski, that, you know, he's got some family ties to Poland, and he knows, you know, just enough, you know, he knows, you know, just enough to be able to kind of get by. You know what I mean? Common phrases that were said around like the household, you know, and he is, just sort of, he's crossed lines, the border that is, to, check on family. Now that the dust is settled. Let's put it that way. How about that?
So shall we say that his papers describe him as a Polish national then?
Yes, I think that would be, yeah.
Yep. And we'll give him enough Polish, certainly, to convince any Germans that he's Polish.
Cool.
Okay. And then just so I'm clear what the risks are, he's currently marked as light loaded, and that means that he can pass for a civilian.
Sure.
He's got maps, road maps to work by. He's got his false papers, but if there's anything else in there that's incriminating, I might get to ask you that shortly.
Sure.
So with all that in mind, then, you get to roll 1d6. You can add a d6 if what you're doing fits in your expertise. Now, your careful courier expertise covers bargaining, tradecraft, and psychology. I think this is tradecraft.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah. So you get to roll with expertise, and if you fail, you can always put the stress die in and roll again.
Sounds good. So just re-rolling now.
So a 3 and a 1. So currently, on a 3, you'll need to convince them you are innocent or slip away inconspicuously. And the way to slip away inconspicuously would be to abandon the car and take to your heels.
Yeah, that sounds fair. I guess,
or
again,
you could put the stress dice in and roll again.
I think I like ramping this up a bit. So perhaps, sort of visually, and feel free to, take this over at any point, of course. I mean, do we see him kind of just sort of parking the car, just off the side street? Perhaps it was a dead end, and that's what raises suspicion.
I mean, interestingly, if you look at the map, the first turn off before that roadblock is indeed a dead end.
Oh, perfect. I don't actually have access to that map, but
check out the mission tab.
Okay, I've missed it then. I beg your pardon.
And scroll right.
Scroll right. Oh yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So the roadblock is just before that turn off on the main road to Castle Karlstein, and as you'll see, the only way off that is a dead end. So you drive down the dead end. So we see you doing what?
Yeah. So he parks the car, and I imagine, other than the clothes on his back, I mean, he still has that sort of briefcase or attaché, and it might have like a change of shirt and some socks in there, and some basics along with his papers, and goodness, I guess he lifts the lapel on his coat, and it's a little bit of chilly morning, and he just tries to sort of, again, inconspicuously walk away from the car in the opposite direction of that roadblock. Just it no doubt leaves some sort of doubt, although I just said it, in the minds of the roadblock guards.
I think that's fine. And what we probably see as he disappears down a lane, down an alleyway between a couple of houses, what we might well see are 2 German soldiers turning off towards where he's left the car. And about 200-300 yards across some open ground, he can see some woodland and some buildings. Is that where he's heading?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think he saw the blockade. I mean, he saw the guards, excuse me. And I mean, his thought right now is just to get away. It was clearly, he understands it was a mistake to drive the car into town, and if he could just sort of slip away into the town or into the woods, get away from the guards, that would be great.
Okay. And unless anyone objects, what I'm going to do now is hard frame you all back into the same scene, because what's convenient about that is that we have Joe heading south into Vordertrabane, and the other 3 of you on foot coming in down a back lane, back pathway into Vordertrabane from the east. So I'm inclined to have you meet just north of that main road junction in Vordertrabane, where he comes round a corner and sees you just emerging onto that main road, intending to cross it, heading towards the footbridge that you know will get you across the river just before Karlstein. Simply for my own GMing convenience, I want you back in the same scene. So unless anybody really objects to that, that's where I'd like to happen. And this would be a good point for me to just run through the character keeper and ask you about whether you are still caring the most about particular members of the team. So what I'd like to know is, you see him come around the corner, and can I start again with Ben? Which member of the team do you currently care most about, and why?
All right. I mean, that's interesting. In the moment, I think I'm really shocked to see Joe there. So I'm tempted to say that, like, in this moment, I have like a lot of respect for Joe, that Joe has made it all the way here. Although maybe a little suspicion, like, wait, what is Joe doing here?
Well, in the moment, make a decision.
Yeah. So I think in the end, I'm just going to be neutral towards Joe. So the team member I care most about is still going to be Adrian. I still feel like Adrian's my commander. Adrian is another Brit like myself. Well, you know, more than not. I think Adrian also had some Belgian in his background, but anyway, yeah. Now I don't trust Adrian's I feel like Adrian is a little too cavalier and might put the mission a bit at risk, but ultimately Adrian is my commanding officer and I will do whatever he says.
So the chain of command holds despite your concern about his judgment call last time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Adrian, who do you care most about at this point? Has that changed at all?
No, I'm going to keep mine the same. So, you know, I've now seen everybody in play, but clearly I've got more affinity with a fellow soldier and a countryman.
Fine, thank you for that. Adam, what are you thinking at the moment? Because last time you rather liked Adrian, I think.
No, last time I rather hated Adrian. Now I rather like Adrian because he, first of all, he rescued the orphans and then he gave me something to drink and he seemed to be a pretty cool guy. But I don't like Ben. Ben is the soldier growly type. I don't know. I don't like him.
That's fine.
I don't know Joe, so I cannot say if I like or dislike him.
Exactly. Time will tell where Joe sits in your constellation. So which member of the team do you care most about? Now, the only two that you've met are Adrian and Ben, Joe. So given that the choice is Adrian or Ben, which of those do you care most about?
You know, I think that I don't suppose, can I throw you a curveball? You know, I was just thinking that, you know, perhaps, you know, Joe might have a lot of respect for Adam, although he hasn't met Adam, you know, or doesn't really know Adam in a deep sense. You know, he's got sort of a respect for, you know, the people sort of, you know, standing up for, you know, what's right and resisting, you know, the, and so, you know, yeah. I think he has, he's impressed with Adam, you know, taking on this risk, knowing what's involved.
So almost anyone, any Czech national putting themselves in the line of fire at this point would be to their credit. Fine, that works for me. Who does Joe care least about?
You know, being part of the diplomatic corps, perhaps. He's, you know, sort of developing a yes, I guess maybe perhaps Ben. I mean, is it sort of clear to Ben? I mean, is it clear to Joe and Ben and Adrian's interactions that you know, Ben is sort of higher up in the pecking order? I mean, would you say?
Adrian is the officer. Ben is the sergeant in this.
Then so, it would be Adrian.
Adrian, fine. Okay. A natural American concern about not just an officer, but also a rather posh officer, it must be said. How terribly democratic The Yanks are. Okay. And in terms of who you care least about, Ben, the way we left it was that it was Joe, because you couldn't quite work out what he was for. But has that now changed at all? You're muted, Walter.
Okay, didn't realize you were jumping all the way back to me. Yeah. That's funny. I was like just reading that, and yeah. Apparently, I way back in the first session thought that Joe the American was out of his element, and it's not clear why he's here. I think I would have to. I think I would have change that. I think just the fact that Joe made it here, and seemed to be getting along just fine walking through Vorta Trebane, when I'm feeling nervous about that, makes me think, okay, maybe he's not so out of his element, but it's not clear why he's here. So I'm still going to keep Joe as the person that I care least about.
Which is to say most disposable. Okay. Adrian, any change in your view? Because I think you were also slightly concerned about the American.
Yeah, there's no change there, and maybe showing up late again maybe just reinforces that fact.
That's fine. Okay. And Adam, I think you've already said that Ben, his focus on the mission is a concern to you above focus on the people. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah, this is more of a guts thing than a strategic thing, anyway.
Yeah. Fine. So with all that in mind, Joe, did I ask you who you cared least about?
I think we said Adrian, correct?
Okay. So what we see then is a very shifty looking Joe emerging, looking over his shoulder back to the fields he's just crossed. Concerned, I'm guessing, that any pursuit is going to come after him from where the sentries find the car, and the three of you in a determined effort to head towards Krupna. So do you want to have a scene around reintegrating him, or do you just want to go with the flow and head to Krupna?
I would like to meet him, at least. And I also have another question, because I would like to have a medium load, but that usually means that is kind of suspicious. But as we're going bird watching, we can have full backpacks, right? Because we need stored food and bird watching books or whatever, bird watchers.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind that I'm assuming that you're not going to carry the radio set with you everywhere.
What? But
well, it's a pretty bulky suitcase. That you know. My assumption was that you're not going to be trying to set this up in the field necessarily.
But if we're in Krupna at the evening, then we won't have the radio. That's bad. No, I'm getting the radio somewhere in my backpack.
Okay, so I think we said it was in a suitcase. So you have a suitcase with the radio in. Fine.
Okay.
So you better mark that up, because I think I may have unmarked it, assuming that you weren't going to carry it with you everywhere.
No, I did unmark everything. But I'm just wondering if I can go to a medium load without it's seeming that I'm bulked up on guns. I mean, I'm carrying the suitcase. That's kind of suspicious anyway.
No, don't worry about that. I mean, what it raises suspicion slightly. It's only if you're heavily loaded do you look like you are armed for bear.
No, I don't need anything else besides my pistol for the Nazis.
Fine. So in summary then, Ben and Adrian are going lightly loaded. Adam is going medium loaded, and we've already decided Joe is light loaded. Yeah. You don't need to remember that combat knives and maps and stuff, while I'll ask you if you have them, because they could be suspicious. They don't take up any loads. You needn't mark anything for that. So Adrian, you don't need to have those 3 boxes marked. until such time as you tell me what you're carrying. Yeah, all I need to know is that you're light loaded. Fine. So I'm going to move us fairly swiftly then from because I'm not certain that Joe will be keen to stop here and do introductions. I think he'll be keen to keep moving. So on the trip to Krupna, what is the conversation between Joe and Adam that serves as our introduction?
You know, I can see Joe sort of opening the conversation like, something like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your family, tell me, where you're from, what's your village like? I mean, he's really sort of interested in these sort of, cultural details about Adam.
My village. I'm from Prague, dude. That's not a village. That's a city.
Ah, yes. No, I've spent a lot of time in Prague. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
Beautiful people.
Yeah, some of them, I guess. Yeah, it's a good city. And I think he will warm up to the topic and then tell you about the history and the Rachin and the castle and the Kleinseite and everything that is there in Prague. There's a lot of history there, so.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine at some point Joe, injects, my family's from Poland as well, and tries to sort of make a connection. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he detects or if he overlooks.
Not in Poland.
In typical sort of American fashion, he just sort of laughs that off and but he's trying to make this connection of I'm like you, I'm your people.
Okay, I think that Adam will try to change the topic to where you're from. You're from somewhere in America, so New York or Chicago or something.
Exactly.
Which one?
Yes, that is. I would say that to Joe, Europe is one large state.
Yeah. Well. So, do you tell Adam which city you're from?
Oh, from Chicago, and he goes into a great deal, of course, about Chicago and
gangsters. Oh, Tommy guns, Al Capone, yay! That's totally. I think you will find that Adam has a vague idea about that Chicago from some gangster flicks that he's seen.
Yes, yep. He talks about you got it, gangsters and colorful history and prohibition, and it's engaging conversation about
Yeah. Adam wants to visit Chicago at some point in his life.
Krupna. Krupna is a small hamlet. The road quickly gives way to earth, and you will have seen people working in the fields around the hamlet. The hamlet is dominated by a church, a Roman Catholic church, which you have no other suggestion other than presumably this was Father Andre's church. What do we do in Krupna?
Is there only one church?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a one church town.
Oh, that's tiny. Okay. Yeah, so maybe we should go to church and look for a priest or some kind of deacon or something.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there might be a caretaker or something looking after the church, that sort of thing. And
as the door of the church creaks open, and the morning sun is coming through the windows, you can see dust motes, and a woman in a headscarf is, it appears, changing some old flowers for some new flowers at the front of the church. What do you do?
Well, I think I'll say to Adam, if you wouldn't mind, using your native language.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go over and say, good, what is it, morning, day? Oh, good day, good, excuse me. You're muted, Alun.
I am. Yeah, I just delayed so you could say that.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to go 2 games on the trot without having that said to me. So yes, and she'll turn to you and she kind of peers at you. Hello, young man.
Excuse me. We're from. Well, these guys are. I'm pointing over to these guys over there. They're Swedish bird watchers, you know, and
I think. Oh, Sweden.
Yeah,
Ooh, where's that?
North.
Further away than Gross Moorshine.
I think, yeah, I think so. It's I don't, yeah, it's really far to them. There are ice bears, polar bears up there, you know. Yeah, but they like to watch birds, and they don't have that many birds because it's cold and then they freeze and they fall from the sky. So they are coming here to watch our birds, which, well, we have lots of them. Yeah, and I was wondering if Father Andre was in.
And she, Father Andre has gone away.
Oh no.
Yes. There was trouble, and he's had to go away.
Oh wow.
Do you know Father Andre?
Heard of him, I guess. He's supposed to be quite active with the bird watching thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe. But it's too bad that he had to go away, maybe.
Well, it was either that or risk the Nazis getting him.
That's kind of the danger, right? Just do you know? I know this seems weird that me asking you, but look, I really want to talk to him about this.
I think we've reached the point where I need some indication of how successful this investigation is.
Yes. Okay. So my expertise is personal safety. No, I am. Well, language is not going to help, but I'm a small-time street criminal, and I'm trying to get her to tell me some stuff that's not entirely up to.
Trying to get a very respectable lady to spill to you. I'm not sure that this is necessarily your sphere of expertise.
No, not really. I'm not a con man.
No.
You're right. Okay, so I'll just roll my usual die. Oh, got a 5.
So on a 5, you can ask me 2 questions, I think.
Oh, very nice. I can just ask any kind of questions, right?
Any question you like. You know, I mean, you've intimated some questions, but if you want to phrase them tightly for me, I'll do my best. Well,
I would like to know where Father Andre is, or if she knows somebody who can tell me.
She will certainly tell you that she'll confirm all the stuff about him saving children from the castle that you already know. And she will tell you that he must be being sheltered by the resistance. And the things he saw up there must have been horrible, because he wouldn't speak about the details to anybody in Krupna. But the more significant question, I think, that he is being hidden, and what she will tell you, I think, in answer to your second question, which is, where is he? She's pretty certain he's not far away, because he sneaked into Mass on Sunday. People have been coming to Mass simply as a kind of act of community support without the priest. But he arrived, sneaked into the back of the church and held Mass on Sunday. And he was just glowing with energy and belief. And the people of Krupna believe that he's doing the work of God. There's no question about that. Because he told them that he was going to stop what was happening at the castle, drive the Nazis out of the villages, and fight them with their own fire. And then he slipped away to wherever he's being kept safe.
Well, I will make the sign of the cross and tell her that I hope that God will shelter him, and I'm pretty sure that that is godly work, what he's doing.
But don't tell anyone I told you so, young man, because the Nazis are listening to everybody, everything. Nothing,
Yeah.
It's just not safe.
We were talking about birds, right? That's all we were doing.
Ah, yes, I'll remember that. Frozen birds. We were talking about frozen birds.
Yeah, exactly. And if anybody asks what I wanted, whatever we were talking about, that's maybe what you remember, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Go
Okay.
with God, young man. Go with God.
Yeah, God be with you and the saints. And I go over and tell everybody that Andre guy is probably still in the vicinity somewhere. She couldn't tell me where the resistance is helping him.
And how there must be resistance around here as well. Do you think, Adam, that it would make sense to try and put out more feelers for the resistance on this side of the river?
This is a tiny village, if I don't know. I mean, I told her about the bird watching thing, but she knows we're not bird watching, and she will tell somebody. This is a small village. People talk all the time. So either we do this very quickly, try to find resistance members, or, well, I don't think we should stay here for very long.
And I guess there's this question is directed to Adam. However, you may have to answer, Alan. Is there any kind of national, organizing, body for the resistance? I mean, do you have like some secret code or signal or handshake or something like that?
No, it's very early. One of the reasons that Adam has been sent from Prague is to try to establish some of those contacts.
Gotcha.
It's a very fragmented organization. The implication was that Gaspar, codename Gaspar, that you met at the jazz club, is trying to organize at least a regional, if not a national resistance.
Okay.
There's no such. We're not that organized. I mean, sorry, we're trying to get there, I guess.
So where to next? It's not lunchtime yet. It's mid-late morning.
Tossing out an idea to the group, and this is coming from the non-military person, but I mean, do we want to try to, somehow get the resistance attention? I mean, do we want to do something dangerous? I mean,
we have done something dangerous already by attacking the Nazis, and they know our frequency. What we could do is try to set up the radio and listen that we get any kind of, stuff on the radio. We've put our feelers out. I've put my feelers out in Karstein already.
Yeah, so let's head southeast to that large, some woods, a copse of woods, and we could possibly set up in that. It's quite good, as in there's just one path going through it. So if we pull off that path, we shouldn't get interrupted.
Okay, so I see you in this woodland. I see you setting up the radio, erecting the aerial, and then just Adam tuning in with his little earphone, trying to hear anything. And where you managed to overhear radio communication from the Germans previously. So you move around there, and you'll get a message that says something like, and we know you speak German because you have languages. It says something like, yes, the men are deployed. Begin to round them up now, and then I'll rendezvous with you at the square in Vordertrabane.
That came from a German radio, right? Okay, so I think there's something going down for the terrain.
And in fact, you know, I'm just looking at the contour lines on your map, and you're probably at the top of that low hill, overlooking Vorder Trebain, with Karlstein away to your left. And I think that you will see a number of German trucks deploying around the villages.
I think they are going to round up anybody they suspect of being resistance.
Yeah, so avoiding the villages is probably a good thing at the moment.
That could make it harder for us to contact the resistance ourselves then. I'm sure if we've noticed that they're looking for the resistance has as well. We might need to be more proactive in contacting them and convincing them that we're trustworthy.
How are we going to do that?
I mean, we could launch an attack on maybe Karlstein Station, maybe. Or the police station in Hintertrebain.
As you watch from your vantage point, because you are only half a mile from the center of Vorder Trebain, maybe slightly more than that to the square at that major road junction, you will be able to see people being, you know, doors being knocked on, and particularly as you have the binoculars, doors being knocked on, people being ushered out. It seems to be a pretty general roundup. It's almost like they're trying to get most of the people from the town into one place.
Maybe they want to do something example to make an example of someone. Maybe they've captured someone.
I'm very happy to carry on describing it and waiting for you to tell me when to stop or whether it triggers anything.
I think they're going to just line people up and shoot a few. So if we wanted to pull the Germans away from that, then maybe we need to cause a distraction. You know, create some scene that would pull the troops away, or you know, we just sit here and watch it.
We could go down there. We could go down there and see what our options are when we're closer. No.
I think that Ben is hearing Adrian talk about creating a distraction and you know, throwing out ideas like attacking the Hintertrebain station and thinking, oh, this is a bad idea, we should lay low. And then he sees the part of town where he was in late last night, that the Germans are there knocking down doors and taking people out and questioning everybody. And then Ben's like, yeah, we should do something. We should do something now. Distraction's a good idea.
Maybe let's get down there and see what's what. Right? From up here, we can't do anything.
No, I'm not thinking about going into Vorder Trebain.
Okay.
There's way too many Germans there. I want to pull them away. So maybe, how about we go to the railway tracks north of Krupna, disable them with a satchel charge or something. That'd be quite a large explosion, and I think, you know, it would draw the attention of the forces.
Yeah, but what do we do then? We've distracted them. They go, look, see, oh, nothing much happening here, and then they go back and shoot more people. That's just...
Well, I'd like to think they'll start looking for the cause of the explosion rather than just dealing with civilians.
Okay, you're the military guy.
Well, let me suggest this, though, that it's, at the moment, it seems like Krupna is the safer place. And perhaps that leaves one place for us to find the resistance. maybe it would make more sense for us to create a resistance not right here in Krupna, but somewhere else.
I'm going to suggest that I leave you to think about this and we have a brief break. It's 23 minutes past the hour now. If we could be back in our seats at 5:30, let's then assume that at that point we can develop some certainty about what we're going to do, because you've got a lot of options, but and we're back to the strategic versus the tactical and the long-term versus short-term objectives, which is a good place to be. So can I suggest we're back in our seats at 5:30? See you then.
Alan, you were right about the Eurovision Song Contest.
I was right about the Eurovision Song Contest.
You said England would finish last, and I said no, Germany will, but no.
No, in this country, the assumption is that there is an Eastern European kind of effort to just nail the British every time. It could just be that we just have crap songs.
Yes. It's just the same here. That's like, oh, the Scandinavians vote for each other, and the Eastern Europeans vote for each other, and nobody likes us for some reason.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm looking then to tie you down slightly in terms of what you're going to do next. You've got a range of options, but I'm concerned we're at risk of mission paralysis.
Yeah, I have an idea, which is instead of the shock and awe, maybe we could try something more subtle. We're on top of a hill where we have basically our radio can reach a long way, and we have a native Czech speaker. Perhaps something more subtle in the way of a distraction would work.
You're thinking about sending out a message like everybody, everybody go, we'll meet somewhere in the woods where then nothing will happen. Something like that.
Yeah, that could work.
Okay, we can try that.
So is this a just broadcasting on us in sequence, as many frequencies as you can manage?
Mm-hmm.
Is the objective to get civilians to hear you, or are you hoping that the resistance has a radio and they're going to listen in?
No, the objective is for the Nazis to hear us.
Ah, sorry, I beg your pardon.
So, because we want to distract them and we want to make it seem like this is a call from the Czech resistance that they accidentally picked up, and that says everybody who's anybody go into, I don't know, go to Bleichen and look for...
Grossmorchen.
Oh, where is that?
Going way off the north corner of the map.
North corner.
Grossmorchen.
As far away from you as possible.
Yeah, okay. Yes, that's good.
And why don't we transmit the knowledge that, as the resistance, we say the majority of the Nazi forces are in Vortertrabane, so therefore launch our attack now in Grossmorchen.
Yeah, okay.
No, that seems very clever. So let's see how well that goes then. This is doing something else, I think. And I think that collectively, I think you have sufficient expertise. You've got Joe's psychology and bargaining. You've got Adam's use of language, and you've got, just the idea. So I'm very happy for Adam to make the role, but with expertise.
Cool. Roll for your party. Come on, expertise. No, damn. Yeah, I've got 2 5s.
Which means that things go well, and I think I'm obliged to offer you an extra benefit. What extra benefit would you have in mind, Adam?
I think the objective was to get the Nazis to go to Großmarschin, I think that's the name of the place. And the extra benefit I would like to have is that they go out there in force. Just not all, oh yeah, the resistance, that the resistance isn't caught up in this stuff, that they aren't deceived by what we're doing, but that they notice us. That's good.
Fine. So yes, looking down into the village, into the town, then you will see, officers, calling men, getting into the back of trucks, and these trucks heading north out of Vortertrabane in the direction you've gone. Now it's 2 miles there, so this buys you, at most an hour, I guess, for them to hit Großmarschin, to determine to set out to defend it, discover there's not actually nothing happens, and then return. So you've got about an hour to play with. What do you want to do with that hour? because you can see the people are just scattering back to their homes now. Once I know what you're going to do, I can work out how to best deploy that benefit.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, we should just sort of jump on the opportunity, go down there, and try to mix. And I mean, what do you all say? I mean, it feels like it's better than trying to go down to the pub and, trying to, you know what I mean? Sort of quietly, secretly, and conspicuously make contact. This feels like an even better chance, I guess, is what I'm trying to express.
The problem is that we don't know who our contact would be. But
yeah, I mean, we could go into Vorda Trebane and tell those people that, really now would be a good time to go visit relatives or their friend in a farmhouse just out of town, unless they risk getting rounded up.
No, I have
what
another
about
idea.
the Working Man's Club is where you made contact last time? Maybe that would be the.
I have another idea. Let's just watch for the Trebane, because I think those people who are in the resistance, they will try to get out of there because they're in danger. We should see who's leaving.
That's quite a smart move, because what you see is a small group of people scurrying across that footbridge, heading west, the footbridge you crossed, and crossing the railway track and heading west towards Krupna.
Let's go talk to them.
They are no more than half a mile away when you see them cross the river.
Yeah, I think from just north of this copse of woods where we are, there's actually some open ground which they've got across, really, so that would be a good place to intercept them.
Then let's cut to that. You're at the fringe of that woodland, and you can see them crossing the open terrain towards Krupna. They have to cross that main road, and what you notice is that there are 3 Germans marching up that road. It looks like somebody's not told that foot patrol it needs to stay in the village. What do you do?
Should we intercept them?
Only 3 Germans?
I think take out the low number of Germans.
I agree.
German regular or SS?
They look to be just field troops, because you can see them from your position. The 3 or 4 people making a run from Vorda Trebane won't be able to see them because the trees are screening the Germans, and the Germans won't see them either, for that matter. But
is it possible for us to try and sneak up on the Germans? I would, if possible, I'd rather try and take them out with knives than with guns, as much as possible.
You can certainly try to get close to that road, and then make your way up one of the drainage channels screened by some rough hedging in that road to get to the point where the Germans are.
I think I would go to the refugee guys and try to dissuade them from using the road. Also, if it comes to gunfire being shot, then I can tell them that this is friendly fire, hopefully. And they won't just hear shots and run away somewhere where we have to chase them.
So I think I know what Adam's doing. I think I know what Adrian and Ben are doing. Joe.
Well, so not being, not being sort of military minded, I guess Joe would accompany Adam. That seems reasonable.
And we already know that his film star good looks have worked before in terms of meeting people. Mm-hmm. So Adam and Joe make their way more or less straight towards the people who are running from the village. I have Adrian and Ben making their way silently towards up the side of the road to where the Germans are. And the Germans are marching towards you. So what happens? There are 3 of them.
Okay, so Will, there's 3 Germans and there's Adrian and Ben, and we're all walking towards each other. Everybody sees each other, is what it sounds like the situation is.
At the moment, my assumption is that you are screened from them because you wanted to get close to them, I think. So I'm very happy for you to have a drainage ditch and a hedge.
So, okay. So we could wait for them in cover and then try and surprise them. Yeah. that sounds brilliant. That's
Yeah,
what I'd
but
like to
trying
do.
to take
Really
on
good then.
3 with 2 people armed with knives isn't a particularly sort of odds in our favour.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the fewer gunshots fired, the better, though.
Just by the by, and to add a degree of pulpiness to this, which is probably inappropriate, you could also try throwing knives at them.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll hide in a ditch, basically, and as they get really close, as in they need to be literally feet away from us, we'll engage.
I think that just to give me an idea of how close they do get to you, and therefore how easy this might be, I think I need one of you to roll for do something else. And looking at your skill sets, I think this is an example of Adrian's infiltration. So if Adrian rolls with expertise, please.
Double 6.
Well, so this goes as well as it could possibly go. And I am going to allow you to have the complete drop on them. Yeah. We'll worry about what is disturbing about this in a moment, Adrian, because there is this is just, there's something about this that is just slightly disconcerting to you, but we'll worry about that in a moment. So now it is a matter of you both making, both confronting the mythos and its minions. I'm not going to ask you to roll any failure dice for them because you have got the complete drop on them. Only if they don't survive the 2 knives and then someone going at them will this come down to them having a chance to interfere with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think with such a good infiltration, probably one of us will be actually up an overhanging tree to sort of like really get the drop on them, sort of thing.
That's fine by me. So given that you're you have the infiltration in your skill set, I'm going to say that that's you. Yeah. So who wants to roll first for confronting the minions?
I'll let Ben go first.
All right. So that's just 1 stress die.
So that's the ordinary die. This is not particularly. You've got hand to hand, so you've got your expertise. So you're rolling,
right. Confront the minions. Okay. Oh, the first roll was just to get the drop on them.
Exactly.
Literally. And now we're going to actually fight them. Right?
Indeed.
Okay. Got it. Let's see. All right. Do something. Confront the minions and their mythos. Okay. Now, for that then, being a tough NCO, do I get a second expertise dice?
No, there's only ever 1 expertise dice in the game. So,
or I mean, do I get a expertise dice?
Yes, because you're all trained in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then here goes. I got a 5.
And on a 5, 4 plus, 5, you succeed. The GM may offer you some extra benefit. So I'm going to say that the first thrown knife takes one of them in the throat. What's the extra benefit you want?
I mean, I think the most obvious benefit to me would be if the would be if it was something that did not actually alert the others. Maybe there were 3 of them and I got one that was in the back. And so there's a moment when the first 2 don't even realize that their friend is down.
And yeah, in that pause, you have an opportunity to do something else, but let's cut to Adrian. Adrian, 2 of them have just walked underneath your branch.
I'm going to drop out of the tree then and attempt to sort of dagger one as I fall, sort of in his back, or at least knock him over. So here we go, rolling 2 dice, 5 and a 3.
So again, you take the first one down effortlessly, and you both have the extra benefit. So I'm going to allow you to take a second one down. So you hit one on the way down, the other one you knocked over. What do you do with that remaining one who's now sprawled on the ground at your feet? He's at your mercy.
Yeah, I'll basically disarm him, get him in some kind of like chokehold.
Ooh, took a prisoner. Fine. So you have two of them taken out, and I see you dragging them off the road into a ditch, and you've got the other one with a knife at his throat. Meanwhile, just a matter of 100 yards, less than 100 yards away now, we have Adam running down this shallow hillside towards these guys, these folk.
Yeah, I don't want to run at them because they don't know me. They might, if they're resistance, they might shoot me. I mean, I'm just not. I am trying to come from the side at them, and then I will say, "Oh, hey, excuse me, there are Nazis up there."
So you're trying to attract their attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think I do need to know their reaction, and the only way I can think to do that is to have you do something else.
Yes, I'll do something else. I'll wave at them. I don't know if I've got expertise on that.
I don't think anyone has expertise in waving at people.
The queen might, but I'm not. Whoa, I've got a 2. No, I want to reroll that. I'm taking a stress die. Let's see how that goes. Oh, I've got a 5, and it's higher than the stress die, so it's fine.
Everyone's a winner. So on that, they pause, they look at you, and you're about 30 paces away, I guess. And it's possible for you now to shout something at them, or to demonstrate you look check, in the sense that you're not in uniform and you're not brandishing a weapon. So I think that gets you close enough. And to be honest, I think they're looking past you at this matinee idol who's at your shoulder. So what do the two of you do when you get up close to these people? They will stop you when you get about 5 or 10 paces away. And one of them is looking behind, clearly worried about pursuit.
Yeah, do we get an extra benefit?
What extra benefit would you like?
I would like for one of these guys to be a cousin.
You have a cousin everywhere, don't you?
Yes, I guess, yeah.
I tell you what, rather than stretching your hereditary too thinly, can I suggest that by cousin, you mean someone who knows you?
Yeah, a cousin. Yeah, okay, that kind of, the Chicago kind of cousin. So, yeah, okay, I like that. And then I'll look at him and I'll say, hey, guys, Pablo, hi. Look, there are some Nazis up the road, so maybe come with us.
Adam, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah, come on. Let's not shout, yeah? Because they might hear us.
I think the fact that you are his cousin means that they will follow you in whichever direction you choose to go.
At that point, I choose to go away from Porta Trebane, I guess.
Which takes you back up towards where you were originally located, where you got first view of the German.
Yeah, because that's a good vantage point anyway. So.
And I think it's not far up that slope that you can look back on the road and see Adrian and Ben dragging, or Ben probably dragging 2 bodies into the undergrowth, while Adrian has another German by the throat. Adrian, Ben, I'll assume that you're going to do what you can to hide the bodies. We'll worry about how well you did that when the search starts. But in the first instance, what are you doing with your prisoner, and where are you going?
Well, while Adrian's got him in the chokehold, Ben is immediately going to gag him, just probably with, spare clothes, just take his shirt off, gag him, hog tie him, subdue him so Adrian can release his grip.
Adrian, we never really dealt with what was disturbing about this encounter. Do you want to tell me what leads to you rolling a stress dice, or do you want me to tell you?
I think searching this German, he's got some some paraphernalia that I can clearly identify as being taken from the convent
Oh,
on him, and I
yes.
can sort of paste it together. This guy's basically been there and done some pretty nasty things.
Yeah, I think that you'll find a stolen rosary, perhaps, that was recovered from the ambush and has been traded between the troops. Would you roll stress, please?
One, so well under.
Fine. So, are you taking him back up the hill to the rendezvous point?
Yep, affirmative.
So, we have 3 putative members of the resistance, including a cousin, and we have you lot and a German prisoner. What do you do?
Well, as we're walking up there, I'll say to Ben that you know, if because we knew these resistance guys were incoming. My intention, I don't really want this prisoner, so I'm going to hand him over to the resistance. I think he's quite a nasty person anyway, so I don't really care what the resistance do to him.
Yeah. One more note. I think while we're like realizing we're going to go back to the resistance, I probably put a blindfold on this Nazi so that there's like, you know, he can identify as few people as possible.
Yeah, that's fine. So I think that your cousin is Yakov Novotny, and the other 2 will introduce themselves as Vaclav Zajic and Jan Svoboda. No, I tell you what, there's a 4th one, Helena Svoboda. So these 4 members, that it's very clear that they were making an escape from Hintertrebbane and able to make that escape because of what you did. And they will be well disposed to you because clearly 2 of you are British. You have a German prisoner and you can point out the bodies of the other 2. Welcome to Czechoslovakia, says Vaclav, who is, I guess, an English teacher at the local school.
Welcome, comrade.
Oh gosh, I can imagine that Adrian Carton de Weert is having to spit that out between clenched teeth. Comrade.
Very much so. And the quite prominent upper class accent, indeed.
Indeed. I say, comrade, terribly good to meet you. So you have met the resistance. You hand the prisoner over to them, and they will, without compunction, put a pad of strip him his uniform, pack the uniform, put it over his head, and shoot him through the head. Joe, I think I need you to make a stress roll, because so far you were slightly twitchy about the actions of the Germans. You've now been confronted by the actions of the resistance. So would you make a stress roll, please? Just roll the stress dice. If you exceed 2, stress goes up by. You mark stress.
So he scores a 2.
Clearly, we're scraping away the soft Hollywood starlet to find the harder Chicago lawyer underneath. Adam, I'm not going to make you roll because I think that you've already actually displayed a positive thirst for killing Nazis.
Yeah.
So I think that you just take this as routine now. And the 2 military, I'm not going to make you roll. You handed them over. You probably knew what was going to happen. So we'll then have a little montage, I think, where the bodies of the other 2 Germans are retrieved and they're buried in shallow graves in this woodland. And an hour later, you are in a farmhouse. In terms of your map, can you see that there's a label called Serbst, but there is no. Serbst is just off the map, but there's a farmhouse at the end of a dead-end track near Serbst, which is their safe house. And they've got there, if you go off this map, there's a kind of ford in the river. They've got to cross the ford, and you are at the resistance safe house at Serpst. What do you tell them?
I think we should tell them that we're here. We've been sent here by. Let me go through my notes. Gaspar from Prague, and that we really need to meet the priest who goes by the codename of Angel.
Father Andre, says Vaclav. Why
Indeed.
do you need to see Father Andre?
Well, we are here on a mission. The goal being to bring back out of this area and to other countries that are trying to decide if they are ready to engage in war with Germany, to give them reasons to engage in that war. If you can give us information on atrocities that the Germans have been committing, we can share this with the rest of the world.
Yeah, and we already know that the that codename Angel has made a raid on Castle Karlstein, and we know that some atrocities have occurred in there. So we're hoping to meet him so he can give us some information or provide us with some assistance to enter the castle to gain that information. You're muted, Alan.
Though Vaclav knows, though Jakub knows Adam, why should we have anything to do with this Gaspar you talk about? What's in it for us? We're doing very well here.
Are you doing very well? It didn't look like you were doing very well just a couple hours ago when the Nazis were shaking down Vorderturbain. You're going to need help.
Well, what help can you offer then?
Like I said, we take information about atrocities to the rest of the world. Then there are other countries that could come to this, make this a bigger fight. This is bigger than just your village. This is in Prague. This is in Poland. This is much larger.
Think big picture. You don't want Nazis to traipse around here and get in your hair, right?
Yeah, but we don't trust the British. The British said that they would defend Czechoslovakia. And then when the Germans crossed the border, what happened? Nothing happened.
But it's happening now, dude. It's happening now, Jakub. That's why they're here.
We could offer some short-term or at least medium-term aid. What we can do is Gaspar has connections with the government in exile. If you ally with Gaspar, he could definitely, and with our help, we can arrange for some arms and ammunition to be dropped in. Which, you know, you want to do something big, you're probably going to want to blow up something. We can facilitate that.
Oh, you've got his attention now. And I have to say, this is all about me engineering opportunity. If someone would say, broadsword, this is Danny Boy. So I think that what they will want is proof of this. And I think that's about Adam getting on the radio or tuning the radio in so that Adrian can get on the radio to the Brits and arrange for this airdrop of equipment.
I can do the radio stuff.
Broadsword, this is Danny Boy. Broadsword, this is Danny Boy. Come in, Danny boy.
This is Danny Boy.
And you will get a message from the out. What do you need, Danny boy? What do you need, Danny boy? Over.
Urgent airdrop in mission facility area. Coordinates to be given in code. Over.
Timing, Danny boy. Over.
0100 Zulu. Over. Following coordinates.
Will do, Danny boy. Broadsword out.
Roger. Out.
And so what I think you've arranged is that at 1 o'clock tomorrow night, because I think that's probably reasonable, 1 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, there'll be a drop. Do you want to place it on the map? You know, relative to Castle Karlstein, north, south, east, or west?
Yeah. We asked. What time of year is it?
It's August.
August. So Zulu time will be 2 hours out from European summertime. So that will come in at 2300. No, at 3 in the morning local time. So let's go for. I'm going to actually go for east of Castle Karlstein, way past a mile, probably sort of in the area of our farmhouse.
Fine. So that I'm putting you off the east side of the map, which is convenient because we'd have to worry about the terrain, north of your farmhouse. Yeah. And I think as long as you can deliver that, then Vaclav will put you in touch with Father Andre. He doesn't know this codename Angel thing.
Okay, I mean that's what we've been given, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the name. I think that's what the resistance have been calling him, and that's come through to you through British intelligence. So, do you want to do anything with the next 24, 36 hours? Or do you want to sit tight? Or do you want to head back to your farmhouse where you've left Professor Zakpal going through his library index?
Could I suggest, I mean, maybe using some of this time to just, I mean, to bond, you know what I mean? To just try to, talk with the resistance, just sort of get, some of their experiences, yeah, I mean, if there's anything that they can tell us about Father Andre, even if it's just from, it sounds like they haven't interacted very much with him. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to get a sense of. Like, how well do they know him?
I think that this is about you establishing a relationship with them, Joe.
Sure.
So
sure.
I think I'd like to know how well that goes by having you roll with expertise, because bargaining and psychology is right in your wheelhouse, as Rich would put it.
Yes. So, okay. So that's a double 4, interestingly enough. Yeah. And I mean, I'm imagining this is visually like, there's maybe a guard standing off to a corner, or someone who's just sort of looking out the window, and Joe sort of sidles up to him, or maybe it's a her. How about that? And Joe sort of dials up the charm to 11, and he's looking out the window and sort of like I'm like I'm with you kind of a moment. And Joe seems to have this sort of endless supply of cigarettes, and sort of lights one up and hands it to the to the partisan, and sort of engages in, so what do you know about this Father Andre? How are things going out here?
And I think, are you satisfied with you succeed with no obvious complications or benefits, or would you like to re-roll with your stress die?
I have to be honest. Yeah, I neglected that choice. So I'm hurrying over to take a look at it right now. Can you reread that to me?
Yeah, so at the minute you will succeed with no obvious complications or benefits. So you will get
Right, I see it.
the necessary. But if you got a 5 or a 6, there's the option on some extra benefits.
Yeah, I am kind of satisfied because I think I'm still trying to just get a foundational understanding. So yeah, succeeding without the obvious complications or benefit.
Okay.
That's fair.
Then I think what Helena Svoboda will tell you is that Father Andre he's a little bit obsessed with children, but there are more than children up there, you know. We rescued some adults from up there, or from a convoy on the way there, and you know, but he seems absolutely convinced it's all about the children, whereas, you know, of course the children are important, but we want to get everybody out if we could. He says he's got a plan, but we've not had the wherewithal to carry that plan out yet, or to even think seriously about it, because, you know, there's a company of Germans in that castle.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's helpful.
But you know, but you have established a rapport. I think that we've now got the resistance trusting Adam because he's a relative. The Brits are about to get trust because they're about to deliver a windfall. And I think your charm, your suave charm, and endless supply of cigarettes are winning friends and influencing people within this group of this cell of the resistance. Yeah.
And I apologize if I missed it. Did we establish that who sort of the local leader is? Was that Jacob or?
That's Vaclav Zajic. Then there's Mr. and Mrs. Svoboda. You've just been talking to Helena. And then there's Jakub, who is Pavel in Prague.
Excellent. Thank you.
And so having kind of, you're in this safe house, I think I'm content to have them lead you across country through the forest to the north of Castle Karlstein towards your safe house, that abandoned farmhouse east of the villages, and then to sit there and wait for the small hours when this airdrop should arrive. Yeah. I just need to lift out of the game for a moment. Paul, I know you're not here for the next session. What I don't know is whether you've got a specific idea of how you'd like to kind of complete Adrian's arc in this session.
You know, maybe pick up a minor injury towards the end that prohibits him going any further, or maybe taking more of a sort of a strategic overview and, you know, letting the troops go on in, maybe doing a bit of broadsword Danny Boy, you know, an airhead or something, maybe, you know, lighting the barrels for an aircraft to come in for an extraction.
Okay, that's fine by me. I'll work with that. So you're at your safe house, and I think that they are sufficiently convinced that you're going to deliver this, that they arrange for Father Andre to arrive there. Now, somewhere in the image board, there's a picture of Father Andre. If only I could find, oh, there he is. Let me just copy him over. Oh, that's not him. That's him. So I've added Father Andre to the mission tab. He's a late middle-aged priest. He doesn't look like a man of action, but there is a fire in his eyes. And as soon as he meets you, to him, you are another sign from God. You are an indication that what he believes can be achieved here is actually possible. Does anybody want to talk to Father Andre? And if so, what kind of scene do you want to have with him? He's learned English off the radio, so it's slightly, I say.
Yeah, I'd like to try and sort of like debrief him over a few drinks, and I'd like to get out of him sort of what he's seen and tactically what he can tell us about the castle. So, you know, draw a map, that sort of thing, number of guards, stations, and hopefully if he's seen anything in the castle that'll further our gathering of intelligence to what's going on.
There are two sources of information on the castle. One is him, but the other one is Helena Svoboda, because she's been delivering non-ration foodstuffs to the garrison commander for the last month. So let me just see if I can give you the map you're looking for. And you can then, there it is. You can then ask me some questions about it. Oh, there it is. Okay, if you go to the mission tab, then shortly underneath the local map of the area, you should find the map of Castle Karlstein that Helena has been preparing.
I will thank her immensely because that's very detailed.
Now, most, she hasn't annotated it by this, but I don't intend to have you scribbling notes down about what's where. But it's much more extensive than you thought, because if you remember the night before, the day before, you looked up at the hillside and you saw a single tower, and that's the tower at the bottom left-hand side. Sorry, I've obscured it with some labels, but at the very bottom left of that is the tower that stands above the forest, and you can see that from down in the village. In fact, you can see it from miles away. But it is quite an extensive castle. She can tell you in detail about the bits that have descriptions. So starting with number 2, the old gate, she can describe what it says there about the fact that it's perpetually guarded. She can tell you about that large open space labeled 15 beyond it, which is the outer ward. That's where they store their transport. She can tell you about 4, 5, and 6, the inner gate, that second gate 4, the courtyard beyond it, and the Burgrav's house, because that's where the camp commandant, Hauptmann Kratz, is living. She's built up some kind of picture of what goes on in the kind of right-hand side, though she's never been beyond the Burgrave's court. So she knows that there's another courtyard beyond the Burgraves. She knows that the main garrison, marked 8 and 9 on here, I think, that's where the garrison, where Hauptmann Kratz's company are living, and that they know from Father Andre that it's the Great Tower where, if you remember, there was another priest, Father Pavel, who first heard screams coming from the castle, and they were coming from the Great Tower or the vicinity of the Great Tower. And it's from the Great Tower that, it's in the Great Tower that Father Andre believes that the children are being kept. And again, he talks about the children, he doesn't talk about the adults. In terms of St. Mary's Tower and St. Catherine's Chapel, you don't have any intelligence. Yeah? Do you want to ask any questions about any of that? I appreciate there's quite a lot of information to take in that, but I'm just, if at any point, if you do have a question about it, just ask it.
I take it the second gate down in the southwest is no different from the old gate in the north, as in, how well protected it is.
No, the second gate isn't guarded, not routinely. There's a setup, command post, if you will, on the main gate. And as it says there, around the motor pool, the outer ward, usually she's seen 4 guards patrolling the walls overlooking that. And sometimes that takes them across the top of the gate, of the second gate.
I've got a quick question. Are we all part of this scene? I mean,
Absolutely happy.
Okay, just wanted to make sure before I. So I guess like what kind of is there like a daily traffic, or even weekly traffic that goes in and out? Like how do they resupply, and if she can provide those details, that'd be great.
Yeah, what she can tell you, and what the Resistance have observed, is that there appear to be duties. So it looks like there's a rotation of troops. So at any one time, one platoon is deployed to the villages, and that would fit in with what Adrian and Ben saw when they were doing the patrol. There was a squad around the bridge and the railway station, another one at the other railway station, and the Resistance can confirm that a third squad is located at Gross Moorshine. And then there is another platoon of about 30 or so men guarding the castle actively at any one time. A third platoon is in the castle on duty but reserve, and then there's an off-duty platoon. So in short order, there could be 30 to 60 men at the castle.
Is there any regular civilian traffic? Whether it's janitorial, you know what I mean, or food stuff, or
there's been a monthly delivery of rations. The only civilian arrivals have either been in the back of trucks and they've not been seen again, or Helena, who on a kind of 2 or 3 daily basis delivers fresh food to the garrison commander.
And how does Helena deliver that fresh food? Is that like, does she take it up in a cart or in a
on a bicycle?
A bicycle, okay. And are there any other like entrances beside the old gate to? Are there any other approaches? Is there like a footpath or anything of that kind?
Everyone was really amazed, really, when Father Andre got in the first time, because it just seemed to be, how did he do that? And sadly, I've put a label over it. Can you see where the label for the old gate is? The reason they use the old gate is because it's wide enough to take trucks and transport. There is a kind of, what would you call it? A small gate in a wall. There's a word for it that I've now forgotten. Just underneath my label, slightly to the west of the main gate, was a door that I think the Germans didn't kind of realize was unlocked, and that's how Father Andre got in. The assumption is that they've been much more careful since, but there is a kind of pedestrian gate underneath that label that would get you into the outer ward through a different route.
Can you tell us much about the children and the adults being held there?
Not a lot, apart from the fact that he knows they're there. And the only reason he was able to get some children out in the first instance was because it was sloppy guarding, really. These children must have recently arrived, and they were simply standing around a truck in the outer ward. And so he got in to see what was going on, saw the children, just grabbed them and got out the same way. But the working assumption is that between 30 and 60 civilians have been delivered to the castle in the last 2 months or so. They didn't know what was going on initially, so they don't know how many were in those first convoys of trucks.
So how many breakouts? Is it just the one where he got some children out?
there were two. The first one was just a matter of luck, really, as I've just described. The second one, he got as far as location 5, the Burgraves Court. And there were some children there who again had been left, it appeared, having just arrived. And the impression he got was that they were being taken into the deeper parts of the castle, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on this. And he was able to get them out again. After that, that's when the crackdown started. They replaced the previous garrison commander with someone who is much more efficient. And that's the point at which he had to seek the help of the resistance. The resistance have been sheltering him and dispersing the rescued people as widely as they can, though that's getting more difficult for them. And so far, those have been the two successful attempts. There was one other successful hold-up of a convoy heading to the castle off the map to the west, and that's what led to people being shot.
Does this guy seem genuine? Can I sort of like probe him? Any possibly could be, working for the Nazis?
Father Andre we're talking about now.
Yeah.
I think that's an investigate role.
Okay, I've got no skill in.
No, I don't. You have
human interaction, so let's have a roll anyway. 3.
You get the bare minimum amount of information you need to proceed, but that's all. He's a fervent believer that God is going to help him rescue people from the castle and also drive the Germans from this area.
Okay, I'm happy with what the father has told us. So yeah.
The sense you get is that that's driven by a belief rather than necessarily any tactical expertise at all. He just believes God's going to make it happen.
At this point, Ben is thinking, all right. But Ben wants to ask Andre. He says, so I know this may be difficult for you to talk about, but we were sent here because we heard that there were specific atrocities committed against these children. Could you share with us what you know about that?
He's not seen any atrocities. Father Pavel, who was then picked up by the Germans and has not been seen since, had heard screams coming from the Great Tower, and the sense you get is that all of this talk of atrocities is driven by that. And what else would they be doing with all these children? Says Andre.
The children he rescued, they did not know anything. They hadn't been told anything.
No, he got them out before they were subjected to anything.
Then it looks like if we want concrete information, we're going to have to go in and find it ourselves.
That is kind of the implication. You can certainly have been making notes, Adrian, on what Father Andre has told you, but what London needed was direct testimony and or concrete evidence. And probably what that means is documentation, photographs, something that cannot be denied. They'd probably settle for the testimony of a priest, but
well, we've got the massacre of the nuns at that convent. That's atrocious. So, but if we want to go in there, I think we need the uniforms, right? I mean, just going in there guns blazing sounds kind of suicidal, I guess.
Yeah, we can generate 3 uniforms because we've got 2, and then there's the one that we just took off, the unstained uniform off the regular army guy. So we've got 2 SS and a regular army guy uniform.
That's true. Rather than cutting to a plan, you do have to retrieve this equipment drop, don't you? And so rather than spend, because we've got about 30 minutes or so left, rather than spending that 30 minutes speculating on how you might plan to get in, I'd rather leave that to the last session and focus now on retrieving the equipment. Yeah, does that seem reasonable? So unless you want to do anything else, I will now ask you how you are going to equip. So what load? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I want to do something else. I want to confess to the priest, because we have a priest now, and there is the move for that, and I am from a Catholic family, actually.
What are you confessing, Adam?
I've killed 2 guys. I mean, they were Nazis, but there is sort of, I think Jesus frowns on killing people.
And so I see you and Father Andre perhaps out in the barn, sat beside the Nazi truck. And as in all these things, you're not facing one another. You're facing one way, he's parallel to you facing the other, and he's saying, so my son, it is a terrible thing to have taken life. Do you tell him that you rather enjoyed it, Adam?
Yes, I think that's. I will tell him that there was this moment when I thought, yeah, I'm the greatest person. It felt really good.
And he'll say, doing God's work lights a fire in us, and it does make you feel good. And Adam, when you act in God's name, you should always feel good.
Okay.
That wasn't quite what you were expecting, I think. But
no, it wasn't.
But let's have you roll the stress dice to see if you can lose a point of stress, because you're currently
at 3.
So if you can score less, there you go.
Yeah.
So you reduce 1, but let's just see what, if any, consequences there are. So if you confess your sins to a priest, roll the dice.
Rolly. I've rolled a 1.
A 1. I'm not sure that, as the rule is written, this makes sense, because it says if the priest sees through your false contrition, you have even betrayed your faith. You cannot use your expertise until stress goes up again. I think that you don't feel you're offered an appropriate penance.
Yeah.
It felt like he endorsed your action. He didn't forgive you for it. So you'll notice on the character keeper there is a little bit that says expertise available. There's a drop down that says not available.
Oh no.
So you cannot roll with expertise until your stress goes up again, because that was not a very effective confession from your point of view. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit creeped out, actually, because that's not what the priests back home say. I mean, they're not like hellfire or something, but that was weird, right? That felt false.
But he was clutching his Bible with, almost kind of, his knuckles were white as he clutched the Bible as he was speaking to you.
I'm getting a very weird vibe of this dude. That's not how a priest's supposed to behave.
Clearly been through a lot. Anyone else want to do anything before we cut to where Adrian has arranged for this equipment drop? Okay, let's cut to where Adrian has arranged for this equipment drop, which is in some open country. But if it drops where it's supposed to, it should drop within about 100 yards of a tree line, which is where I see all of you, plus the resistance. I think that probably I'm going to leave Father Andre and Helena Svoboda back at your abandoned farmhouse. But the rest of you are observing. and I am assuming that you have selected your loadness, so you can respond as necessary. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're waiting for 3 o'clock. And I think in the distance you'll hear a distant kind of high drone. And because you know you're expecting it, you'll see a light bomber just through the clouds. And then the appearance of 2 chutes from the back of the bomber as it peels away and heads north-northwest. Actually north. It'll have flown in over Poland, won't it? So you see them coming down, and they land pretty much exactly where you were expecting, Adrian. It's about 150 paces from your tree line. What do you do?
I'd say let's do absolutely nothing for about half an hour, unless the wind is that strong that it's going to sort of blow them about a bit, just in case the there's an ambush already in place for us.
Well, you've been there an hour, so why don't we see what your tactical instincts are like, Adrian? Because you are British officer commanding, and therefore officer commanding. And so let's have you roll to investigate, I think.
Is it with expertise or without?
I think that your infiltration, I think that this is spotting whether this is both ambushing and spotting ambushing. Yeah?
Okay. Six and 3.
So you get to ask me almost as many questions as you want. So I can tell you that you think there is someone in the opposite tree line.
Then before we go out and pick them, I'd really like to skirt around the tree line and try and see who it is, or drop an ambush on them, basically. So without going for the canisters, skirt around the tree line, see if we can get the drop on them.
Is everyone going with Adrian?
Yeah, I think I would
this
go
way.
with Adrian.
Is anyone not going with Adrian? Okay. So I think this is again, Adrian. Oh, you got a 6, didn't you? And before you ask me questions, would you roll for stress, please?
No stress.
This is Adrian's forte. He finally comes into his own. Hard man in a difficult position. So you have 3 questions to ask me. So I'm going to allow you all to get close to where you think these other figures are. What questions do you want to ask?
Do they look like Nazis?
Yes.
How many?
You think that there's at least a squad, maybe 2 squads. So this could be 10 to 20 men.
And I'll throw the other question out to anybody else that wants to ask that.
You could ask if there's a weak spot in their formation, some point of attack that would seem advantageous.
I think that they've made a classic mistake, Adrian. They've left a gap between the 2 squads. They're trying to cover quite a lot of ground because it looks like they've intercepted your radio call. And so they're trying to cover this field, but they've made the classic mistake of leaving a gap between the 2 squads. And you could do something with the gap, conceivably.
Okay. I mean, I've marked down an extra bit of equipment in those 2 free boxes at the bottom, so please tell me if that's okay. I've marked down smoke, as in not the cigarette kind, more of the canister of pull, pin, throw smoke.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So I'm only putting this out there as a plan. You know, clearly it's an RPG. Even though I've got some rank, I don't. You know, I'm not here to pull it. Again, staying on mission, we want the canisters. We could just distract them quickly with a Bren gun, a bit of tracer, so they'll see where it's coming from. Pop some smoke over the canisters, pull them out of there, and then do a quick runner with the Bren gun before they get anywhere near us. So that's not really going to take any of the Nazis out, but it will achieve the aim. But I'm more than happy to throw it to the floor if somebody's got a better plan. I mean, Sabine's got us a way in there with her question, but that's a lot of Nazis.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a solid plan. I think maybe maybe we have split up a little bit. Maybe Ben has taken up like an easily defended position somewhere with a Bren gun, and the idea is that like Adrian could lead the resistance through the smoke to grab it and get away, while Ben was basically pulling the Nazis off to a different side or distracting them or whatever with the Bren gun.
Sounds like a good plan. Adam and Joe?
Is there a way to get to the containers without being seen? Or is it too light? Is it too bright light already?
I think ideally someone would crawl towards it.
Yes,
because I think it's too far away from your tree line to just throw a smoke grenade. Smoke grenade, I'm going to say, has the same equipment load as an ordinary pair of grenades. So you've got a pair of smoke grenades, mark one bit of equipment.
Okay, so somebody would get out to the containers, try to get the parachute webbing off them.
Well, because currently the parachute is billowing. It's not dragging the equipment. So if what I understood to be right, someone would need to crawl to the canisters and then throw a smoke grenade or two over the canisters towards the Germans to create a kind of smoke screen. And then people would run out, retrieve the canisters back to your original position.
Mm-hmm.
The second bit appears to be to have Ben, say, located somewhere else to fire on the German tree line and try to attract their attention away from where you're dragging the canisters. Have I understood that right?
How about this for a 4-person plan, so everybody sort of gets to do something? Plant some satchel charges, sort of AKA claymores. So when the Nazis pursue the Bren gun position, they'll hit that. Clearly, what the Bren gun attack going in against them is more of a diversion and to draw fire in that direction, because they'll probably have some heavy machine guns to reply with. So you know, if you dug in, it's not too bad, but that's pretty hair-raising. One person who actually put the smoke. Now, the thing with smoke, you actually don't want to put it on the object that you're trying to mask. You want it to sweep onto the object, so to create sort of like a wall of it. So upwind, drop the smoke there, and then somebody else goes in, gets the canisters, drags them out.
Okay, so I've got Ben, a Bren gun, and a satchel charge, because he could carry both a satchel charge and a Bren gun. Yeah, because he's heavy loaded. One satchel charge. I've got Adrian using his infiltration to crawl out to the equipment drop and to try and put the smoke where he wants it. Yeah. So far, all he's got is those smoke grenades. So that's just one equipment box marked. Then I've got Adam and Joe and the resistance folks waiting for the signal to get once the smoke goes off, to get out into the middle of that field and retrieve as much equipment as they can. Is that right?
Sounds good to me. Possibly leave a satchel charge with the equipment.
Okay.
Should we have somebody else helping Ben with suppressing fire? Another gun or something?
Which one of you wants to take that?
Well, I'm thinking about one of the resistance guys, maybe. Actually, because I don't think Joe or Adam are very qualified for that.
I'll be honest with you. The resistance are more interested in the equipment than they are in helping Ben distract the Germans. They're very pleased to have Ben distract the Germans. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Because if the Germans go for that, then he's at risk and they're not.
I might go the other way because we have two groups, and Ben will distract one group, and I might go towards the other group and just lob a grenade or something at their position, probably not killing anybody, but just keeping some pressure on them.
That would work because that gap between the two squads could mean that the squads go in different directions, which would be to no one's disadvantage. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, like I like that we're drawing them apart.
And Joe, you're therefore Johnny on the spot with the 4 resistance, or the 3 resistance, because Helena's back at the farmhouse. Your job is to get out into that field and drag those equipment canisters away into the woods. Yeah. And leave a satchel charge.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. So first of all, Adrian crawls out into the field. He's not shot at, which suggests either they've not seen him or they're holding their fire. Yeah. If it comes down to it, I'll make you roll retrospectively to see how good your position is, Adrian. Ben, you've got round to the other side. I think probably it's the point at which you open fire is the trigger for Adrian launching the smoke. Yeah. So
yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Now, to be honest, I don't think this is confront the mythos and its minions. I think this is do something else, because you're trying to distract them, aren't you? Really, you want to draw them towards you, or out into the open, because at the moment they're just a tree line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kickoff. Once that's had some effect, Adam, you get to try your grenade trick. Then the smoke goes off, and then Joe, how can you marshal these checks to get out into the field and get the stuff back? Okay, so would you start by doing something else, please, Ben? This is with expertise, because I think you have heavy weapons.
Small combat, heavy and combat weapons, yes,
Yeah.
and survival, yeah. All right.
So
then.
with expertise.
Well, I got a 4. So a 4 is good enough, right? That's
Success
16.
with no particular benefits.
All right.
Is that good enough? Just asking.
I mean, I certainly could re-roll with a stress, but something tells me I'm going to need to keep my stress for very shortly.
For another day. Okay. So the Bren gun opens up, and there's a pause, and then it's like that squad reorientates, because they were expecting their focus was on these billowing parachutes. So it takes them a little while to reorientate towards you, but some of them will start laying down a bit of fire, and you would expect others to be making an advance on you. Adam, you don't have the heavy weapon skill, but that doesn't mean you can't use a pair of grenades.
No, just a pair of grenades. I just throw them, right?
Exactly, and again,
I can't use expertise anyway.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So I'll just roll one die. Nah. I go. Maybe I get a bit. Oh yeah, I get 1 stress, which is actually not bad. I got a 5.
Okay.
And I get my expertise back.
So your stress goes up, but you do indeed get your expertise back, so you can use the radio again with effect. And these 2 grenades fall behind the second squad. Now they're a lot closer to you than they are to Ben. but on a 5, I'm going to give you the extra benefit, which is that they think the attack is coming from where the grenades landed behind them, not from where you are throwing them to one side of them. Yeah?
Cool.
So they're reorientating away from you. Great. Smoke, Adrian. I think, again, this is do something else, but I think probably with expertise, I'll count your infiltration.
Okay, here we go. Ooh, 1 and a 3, so I think I'm going to re-roll with stress.
So that's a 6, and the stress was not 6, so you don't need to worry about stress. So with a 6, that goes as brilliantly as it could possibly have gone.
Okay, so...
And I will give you an extra benefit. What extra benefit do you want?
I would like that to actually sweep into Ben's sort of side of the woods. So, for instance, I'm off to the right of the canisters, the wind's blowing right to left, and then further past left of the canisters is Ben. So the smoke will blow into his area. Clearly, he's already opened fire because fictionally we've established that. So this will aid his escape and may also blunder the Nazis into the satchel charges.
I think that's a perfectly good benefit. So, Joe, go.
So I don't think I have any particular expertise in this, I'm afraid to say.
I have to say not. I tell you what the expertise here is. It is to get the checks to act in coordination to get as much of this equipment out as possible. So I think I am going to let you roll with expertise because we talked about you establishing rapport and your bargaining, blah, blah,
Gotcha.
blah. Yeah?
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Well, thank goodness for that 6.
So that's fine and dandy. We'll remember that 6 because I think I am going to make you roll for stress shortly because this is pretty hairy stuff going on here. But that works brilliantly. You know, not only do you manage to cut the parachutes free, but of course, because we've now fictionally established wind direction, they're going to follow the smoke into the trees and screen Ben conceivably. So we've now got smoke plus, and you get right the way back to the tree line before the smoke has cleared from the front. So the hope is that when the Nazis turn back round, it will have disappeared. So you've got those off, and the deal was that you would then carry those canisters back, those equipment canisters back to the farmhouse, and that's the rendezvous point. You're not messing about trying to rendezvous in the dark anywhere else. Okay. Adrian, you were also in the middle of the field at this point. Do you want to get out with Joe and the Czech resistance, or do you want to stay put?
Yeah, I'd like to get out with the resistance.
Okay. And Adam, you're the closest to the German, so I'm going to come to you next. I think I do need you to roll to get clear without confusing them about where they think the attack's coming from and where you are.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have expertise.
Nor do I.
Okay, then let's see. I've got a 5. Yes.
Apparently you don't need expertise in this. You're just very good at this kind of stuff.
I'm a natural.
Again, you succeed, and I think I will offer you the extra benefit of getting away scot-free. Yeah?
I'll take that. God is with me.
Indeed he is. Indeed he is. The codename Angel is on the money.
Yeah.
Ben, this leaves you as the remaining risk. So you've opened fire. There's some light machine gun fire coming back in your direction, and I think it wouldn't be any surprise to you to expect troops to be following up through the woods. Yeah, but you are conscious that the smoke is coming in your direction, and also these billowing parachutes are coming in your direction. So what do you want to do?
Because the parachutes were released. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And my understanding of the situation is that the Germans are between me and the farmhouse. So I'm gonna, even if I can sneak away, I'm gonna have to take the long way around.
I think you are.
All right. So first of all, do I have a sense? I mean, my first order of business is to make sure that everybody else succeeds. So do I have a sense that that everyone else has gotten away with the equipment and made their escape now?
I think what's clear from your position is that there is no fire coming on to where the canisters were or the tree line where you all started.
Uh-huh.
I think the fact that you can see these white billowing parachutes coming towards you across the field suggests that someone's got to the canisters and released the parachutes. So short of taking time to really investigate the scene, the evidence suggests that this has gone as well as it could.
Yeah. All right. Then okay. Then at that point, I'm gonna be just watching out for my own neck, and I'll be like, all right, now I need to get out of here. So, all right, I've got this satchel charge. They already know where I'm at, and presumably we set up the satchel charge between them and myself. So there's two things that I'm thinking about. One is I'd like to set off the satchel charge when I think it will get the most Germans, if that's something I can time. The other thing is I've got this really heavy Bren gun that I've been laying down fire with, and I'd love to take it with me. But I think I'm open to the possibility that I might have to ditch it in order to sneak away. But I'm going to try and take the Bren gun with me and sneak away using the satchel charge as cover.
Fine. So what I think I'm going to make you do is I think I'm going to ask you to roll to make the satchel charge work, really. So it's really about the timing of that explosion and the amount of breathing space it creates for you to get away. And with just the Bren gun, you will not be particularly heavy loaded because you'll have dumped the satchel charge. So that won't slow you down particularly. Okay? So, people who have no equipment would be able to catch you. But I think really this is about how well you place and trigger the satchel charge, which I think is do something else. It's not a direct attack on them. It's using it as a distraction.
Okay. Would I still get expertise in that?
You would, because you have heavy weapons, I think.
Okay. All right, then I will roll the expertise die. I have a 4. I think now I'm going to re-roll with stress because I want this to go off as well as I can. So I'm going to re-roll the expertise die and the stress die.
Just by the by, you have to re-roll all the dice. So the normal, the expertise, and the stress. Okay.
Yeah, and stress came up a 6.
Of course it did. So increase your stress by 1. But the nice thing about this is that it goes off absolutely beautifully. It buys you plenty of time. It confuses the pursuit. They go off in an entirely different direction to the one that you were intending to take. And you get back to the farmhouse with the Bren gun. And I think the other effect is that you will certainly have taken out some of the Germans. Yeah? Nice. But that was a pretty hairy, out there in the dark on your own. You're used to having people with you and, being part of a unit. So I think I'm going to ask you to tell me, how are you feeling after this? What has that increase in stress done to your state of mind?
Well, I'm imagining that I arrived back at the farmhouse much later than everybody else because I had, what some like 20 Nazis, it sounded like, on high alert, looking for someone who had taken out their fellow troops, searching for me in the woods and the surrounding fields. And I had to sneak past all of them to get back to the farmhouse. And it took me a long time. And I've just been on the edge of my nerves, thinking someone's going to spot me and shoot me from the dark for the last few hours. And I finally arrived back to the farmhouse, just exhausted, still checking behind me to make sure nobody followed me here. And I am absolutely at wit's end. I am emotionally exhausted.
I go so far as to say that you're still not convinced they didn't follow you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to a really natural break point, thankfully, because we've got 5 minutes left to play. And so what I'd like to do is just take any feedback before I stop the broadcast, because then I'll remember what the feedback is when I watch it back. So we're all back at the farmhouse. We know that Adrian is going to play the strategic map man and send lots of other people off into danger next time, conceivably. But any stars or wishes? And can I go? Let's go right to left this time, just for a change. Starting with Eduardo.
I apologize. I was just typing up a message. I think I still had a stress to resolve, but would you rather leave this for the next session?
No, I'd love to do it now. Please,
you want to do it now? Okay.
Please do resolve that stress. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
So much stress and so little time.
I know. So mechanically just rolling the stress dice to... Gotcha. So that's a 2. It's under my current 3. So it seems like I just sort of grit my teeth and weather it, or how do you interpret that?
Yeah, you like another cigarette. That's just fine.
That's perfect.
So staying with you, stars and wishes. You know, what do you want to pick out that's going well there? Do you have any concerns about it, or any wishes, or anything about the mechanics that didn't make sense to you?
Sure. Start Paul, for testing out that mechanic earlier, with regards to relieving stress. I thought that was pretty neat. My only wish was that I would have liked to see the scene when Ben returns. And, coincidentally just watched the Lord of the Rings movies with my kids. And there's that scene in the first film where Sean Bean returns. He's clearly done something wrong, and you can sort of see it's this really great moment of guilt. And I would have, I would have loved to have seen something like that play out. But otherwise, I mean, it's all going swimmingly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I missed opportunity there. Thank you. Okay, going along, Sabine, anything to add? Pluses or negatives?
Well, I had a lot of fun. So stars to everybody. I absolutely liked the way when we avoided planning paralysis. That was pretty nice, and we came up with some good stuff. So yeah, yay us. Calling for a break at that point was probably the right call. And I'm looking forward to next week when we try to storm the castle, I guess, or something.
I have to say, I'll be terribly disappointed if you don't try to storm the castle, but
let me see.
Now you'll just know that you're going to disappoint me. Paul, that was your last session in this series. Any points?
No, I mean, clearly trying to reintegrate somebody that missed a session. It finished at high pace, but I thought we sort of mooched around quite a lot at the start. I mean, I'm more than happy to offer up my character for somebody else to play next week. Maybe not any of these people here, but if you're putting another person in, the time to integrate somebody, it's just going to suck a massive amount away from the session. My guy's here, he's got the skills to do the job. I'm more than happy if you offer it. If they don't want to take it, but the character's there to be played.
There's nobody in the wait list for next weekend. I think partly because it's a British bank holiday on the Monday, so I think lots of people have plans.
I thought somebody had added.
Oh, really?
Whoever was in who can't remember who was in the first session.
Oh, really, Jasmine? Right. Oh, that might be quite tricky.
That's what I mean. So my character's got the skills. I'm here. You can skip past all that because it probably sounds like a big session. Really good. Clearly, toying with rank is quite hard. I've experienced this at a convention where somebody outranked people. Telling people what to do is not a good thing at all. So it may come over that my character's indecisive and open to democracy, but I think that's the only way to play it, because if not, it's just not fun at all.
No, I know the game. We've talked about it, and yeah, player agency is important, and command can get in the way of that. Fair point. I think that in a game with a military context, I need to think more about how I GM that actually, because I think there is an issue about potential paralysis. And last but not least, Ben, Walter.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a great session. Yeah, you know, I do want to actually give a star to Paul for being the commanding officer without being commanding in play, right? Like I definitely always feel like I'm able to give full input on plans and such. So that's nice. I'm glad that we got to see the relieve stress mechanic twice. I love that you pulled that from Cartel. That was super cool. I've been, yeah, ever since last week, I've been like looking forward to that opening scene. So I'm glad we got to do that. And I love that we're such fucking badasses. Like every time we confront the Germans, we just have our way with them so completely. I mean, it's so pulpy, but it feels gritty. It feels like things could go horribly wrong. I think we're just really lucky with our rolls. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I think that I need to admit to myself that this is more like Pulp Cthulhu than Call of Cthulhu. But I think there's an inevitability once you throw Nazis and machine guns into the mix that you're going to go in that direction. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun too. And I'd like to offer a star to all of you. Really, I think I am loving the suave starlet. You know, in because his suit hasn't even got dirty yet, Eduardo. You know, I mean, he's just cool. And I'd agree with Ben. I think, Paul, you did play that I am in charge, but it's not a kind of therefore you must do X. So, and I appreciate that's a tricky line to walk. And Adam, I think Adam's great. I was really grateful that you took the opportunity that I hadn't seen coming actually to seek relief by confession with a priest. And I think that's a really interesting little insight you've got into what's going on with Father Andre. And finally, yeah, again, it was a tremendous choice of how to, you know, seek relief from the horror, given what we know about the character. So good on you, Walter. That was really well. And to get it in so early was spot on. Thank you for just, you know, not letting me roll on. Anything else? Any other feedback? No, I'm having a great time. And so I will see 3 of you next week with conceivably Jasmine, who may just arrive by parachute. I don't know. We'll see.
I think Lenka would be great for infiltrating the castle disguised as civilians or something. She could take Helena's job or something like that.
Yeah, I think that we'll not worry about how she gets there. We will simply have her arrive. Now that we've got the resistance and Adam and a radio, there's no reason why you shouldn't have that plan and have contacted her so she's here within 24 hours. Yeah, and that's taken a little bit of her agency away in terms of how she wants to get involved. But as I think Paul's pointed out, I really don't want to spend 40 minutes of our last session subtly reintegrating someone. All right. And I'll make that clear to her in the chat beforehand. So with that, I will stop the broadcast